Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not sure I'm going to have the same energy that I did for the blocked field goal against Denver, because this one's really just inexplicable, other than that's a 2-9 football team, now 2-10, making a 2-9, 2-10 mistake. Now, that's just a Raiders way to lose the football game today. And for the Chiefs in 2024, it's the way they've won their football games. By an inch, by a toe, by a block, by miscommunication. It's not pretty most of the time. And I think the theme of this season has been winning ugly. I think it has been not apologizing for winning football games in the NFL. And we'll be getting your thoughts right here on the Red and Gold Postgame Show, brought to you by Boda Box Wine in the second segment of today's show, as we've done now the last couple of weeks. But you heard us last week talking about that Panthers game. And I don't know if it was being on the road. I don't know if it was the way the offense played. I could stomach it a little bit better, and I'm not trying to be greedy or bratty and say, oh, I don't want to take that win because it wasn't pretty. It was ugly, right? Now, today was just an abomination all the way around. Now, you got a 16-3 lead, 2 defensive miscues, blown coverage, and the Raiders have a 17-16 lead in the fourth quarter. A team that hasn't won a football game since, I believe, either September or early October. And then in the final drive of the game, how many times this season has it come down to the final drive? And Aiden O'Connell, a guy who came into Arrowhead Stadium on Christmas Day last year and won without completing a pass in the second half, you know what he was today? Against a Chiefs defense that has mightily struggled since Jalen Watson went out with an injury in San Francisco. He was 23 of 35 today for 340 yards and 2 touchdowns, a quarterback rating of 116.4. By the way, not his fault on the final play. I don't know what the Raiders were all up in arms about, but that's on them. That's a miscue you can't have that late in the game, lining up to kick a game-winning field goal to throw off the top spot in the AFC playoff picture. But the Chiefs are 11-1, and in the last 2 weeks since losing to Buffalo, they beat the 3-8 Carolina Panthers by 3, took a game-winning field goal as time expired, and they beat the Raiders today only because they weren't on the same page on their final snap of the game. I mean, just malpractice. And that's where I would like to say, hey, you take them any way you can get them. That's all on the Raiders. And the Raiders also missed 2 field goals in this game, even though they were by 50-plus, or they were from 50-plus. I think 55 and 58 were the totals on those kicks by Daniel Carlson. I don't know how much positive things I have to say tonight about a 19-17 win against the Raiders. Now, let me be very clear. Last year, this team had games like this. Sometimes they would lose games like this. And in the end, they were able to hoist the trophy at the end. They were able to go back-to-back. Even with the weaknesses they had, the struggles they had, it didn't matter come postseason time. Believe me, I'm still holding out hope that some of these issues, these weaknesses, get ironed out by January. You bring Hollywood Brown back to this discussion. The offense gets a little bit healthier. Isaiah Pacheco's getting more reps again. Charles Omenihu helps out this defense. But if there's any way to feel gross about winning your 11th of 12 games on the season, today's just kind of that. I mean, before the 13th game of the season, the Chiefs have had to bench their left tackle, 2 separate left tackles, before the game was over. Wanye Morris gets benched today, going up against Max Crosby, a great pass rusher. But if we're going to be hearing all week long, the improvements are being made, these guys are growing every single week, you can't have this. You had to move Joe Thuney to left tackle because you just couldn't have Wanya Morris out there anymore. You made the move to bring in DJ Humphries, who now, by the way, I haven't heard anything. I'm just speculating at this point. I don't see any world in which he doesn't start next Sunday night against the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, seriously? You have to bench another left tackle? I mean, 11-1 is great. Let's not lose sight of that. It's better talking about a win tonight than a loss. But so many frustrating things have happened in the last, 4 to 5 weeks. I go back to that game against Tampa Bay. You just felt like you needed to take a shower after that game. It wasn't pretty. The defense let Baker Mayfield, without his two best weapons, march down the field to force overtime. And if it wasn't for Todd Bowles playing conservatively, you're dealing with maybe a loss in that spot on Monday Night Football. You lose to Buffalo. That's a damn good team and probably the number 2 seed in the AFC playoff picture unless the Chiefs slip up in one of these games where it's coming down to the final moments. But then you go and struggle with Carolina. Carolina drives down the field to nearly force overtime. They tie the game. They have a 2-point conversion. And then today, 16-3. I'm driving to the studio thinking, well, it's not pretty, but you win 16-3. Or would that have been a push? No, it was 13.5. So the Raiders would have barely covered. Hey, the defense had a game they could get their confidence back a little bit. Remember we had that conversation in the aftermath of the Carolina game? Now, this could be one of those games you go out there and just destroy somebody like Aiden O'Connell. I mean, a 2-10 football team putting their backup quarterback in this spot because they had to. Gardner Minshew's out, and he goes for 340 and 2 touchdowns. I would like to say that everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows in January. I really would. And I think this team has given us, the reason to believe they can do that. Hey, just get to January, have the number 1 seed, the postseason's running through Arrowhead Stadium, and you feel like you get to that spot, you're healthier, you're going to be playing your best football. I would like to rely on that. And they've done that now in multiple seasons where their best football comes when it matters most. And as I said about the Carolina game last week, you get to the 1 seed and you get back to the Super Bowl, nobody remembers a game like this. You don't remember the bad plays, the bad drops. DeAndre Hopkins had a bad drop. The lack of running plays called in this game, it just kind of blends in with all the wins that you had. You remember the thrilling finishes, and now we've had more than a few this season. I'm not saying you're going to forget that, but your feeling of how gross it was watching this game, it kind of washes away if you're playing your best football in January. But time and time again, we discuss the left tackle play on this show. We discuss the right tackle play on this show. We discuss the second cornerback spot on this team. It's just a continuation every single week. It's like we're writing a book, and every chapter is titled left tackle, second cornerback spot, right tackle, wash, rinse, repeat. It's the same thing. Now, it's a good thing they're talented enough, they're well coached enough to win these games. And believe me, I think in my time doing the Red and Gold Postgame Show, I have refrained from sounding off a little bit after wins because you won the football game. Winning in the NFL is hard. And when you got the target on your back like Kansas City does, you're getting everybody's best shot. That was the best football game the Raiders have played since week 2 against Baltimore. They were phenomenal today, I think, with Aiden O'Connell at the helm. And maybe, when it comes to playing the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium, Antonio Pierce is the answer. But he had some coaching miscues today. They left points on the board. It's not like the Raiders came in and put up 40 points and you go, well, they just had an unbelievable performance. Remember the COVID game they had against Derek Carr and the Raiders? And I think they put up like 42 or 43, something ridiculous like that. They played the perfect game. They were unstoppable in that game. Today, I can't say the Raiders were unstoppable. They were in a 13-point hole in the second half. they missed 2 field goals. And when all they had to do was line up Daniel Carlson for a game winner, they snap the ball early and it bounces off the chest of Aiden O'Connell and the Chiefs fall on it. Right? It's just the devil magic that we're talking about here. The rest of the NFL is furious tonight. Absolutely furious. This one comes from, I believe, Shio Kapadia. Fascinating tweet here on the Chiefs being an 11-win team through Week 13. Since 2000, there have been 23 teams with 11-plus wins through Week 13. None have had a worse point differential than the 2024 Chiefs, and it's not close. The average point differential for those teams was plus 139. The Chiefs are plus 54. 34 points worse than every other team in the sample. I mean, 11-1 feels good. Some of the advanced numbers, the data on this team, it's not good right now. And I think you have a lot of the doubters out there going, man, if they can barely squeak past Carolina and the Raiders, they're not going to be able to beat Baltimore or Buffalo or Pittsburgh in the postseason. And that's where I would rebuttal, saying they've done it before. They don't need to be playing their best football right now. But I do wonder, in comparing this team to last year's squad, and we'll get your thoughts, again, 913-381-0810, after this first break here. I know we got Gary, Kyle, Jerry, Travis, and Crush on the line waiting and being patient. But I look at this team, and I look at last year's team. Last year's team, to me, had a severe issue with the wide receiver room. It was no secret. They couldn't catch passes. They couldn't stay healthy. They couldn't help Patrick Mahomes when he needed them to most. But then come January, Travis Kelce explodes again. MVS makes some big catches. Rashee Rice turns into a true number 1 wide receiver. And they were able to mask those weaknesses for the majority of their postseason run. I know there were other deficiencies of that team, but the defense was playing their best ball in January. They were able to ride that all the way to the Super Bowl, and they beat the San Francisco 49ers in overtime, as we all remember. This year, what concerns me is it's really hard to hide incompetent play at left tackle. It is really difficult to do that against the great teams out there. Now, they're not going to see Max Crosby again this season. The Raiders are 2-10. As we brought up last week on the Red and Gold postgame show, they're just playing for pride at this point. They're not going to have to worry about Max Crosby. But how often are we going to do this? Well, you know, it's all right because they got a great defensive line. Oh, it's all right because they're going up against Trey Hendrickson, and they're not going to have to worry about a guy like him in the postseason. I don't know if I felt better at any point since week 2 about the left tackle play. It hasn't been consistent enough, unfortunately, and that's what's alarming to so many people out there. You had to move Joe Thuney to left tackle tonight and put in Mike Caliendo, a move that I didn't think would be possible unless there was another injury. An injury to Wanye Morris, who had been playing banged up a little bit. And hey, maybe that's what you're going to say on the phone lines tonight. He's hurt and he's looking like he's hurt. Maybe we'll hear from Andy Reid why that decision was made. Maybe it was just we felt like he couldn't handle Max Crosby in that spot and Joe Thuney could. And if you're having to move your left guard to left tackle, again, we opened up the show talking about this. Not once, but twice, and 2 separate left tackles have had to be benched mid-game because they couldn't handle their own responsibilities. And hey, I think it was very obvious why that move was made. And I think the reason that move was made was from the reaction Patrick Mahomes had after he was sacked on that red zone 3rd down situation. I think that's why the move was made. We have seen Patrick Mahomes get very animated. I would say, and I mean that more so in a pissed off way. We've seen him animated that type of way maybe 10 to 12 times, and I can't name every single one. There's a few that stand out, more so the recent ones. Last year in Foxborough, Kadarius Toney knocks that ball up in the air after all of those struggles he had, and it's picked off. And Patrick Mahomes is visibly frustrated on the sideline. And shocker, that was the last time we saw Kadarius Toney play for the rest of the season. He was done after that. And with Wanya Morris getting beat for the umpteenth time in that game, and Patrick Mahomes getting buried before he can even look at his second option, he's pissed off. I mean, it's not to throw the guy under the bus, but that just comes out in the heat of competition. You're angry. Dude, can you just hold down your spot for longer than 3 seconds? Somebody's going to be open. And if they're not, at least I can get a couple more yards and set up a better situation. Maybe we could go for it on 4th down. So seeing Patrick Mahomes get frustrated in that spot, I think that turned the light bulb on. All right, we got to make the move. It can't be worse than what we're seeing right now at left tackle with Wanya Morris. If he's hurt, then he can't be playing right now. If DJ Humphries is not ready to go, then it's Toney at left tackle against the Chargers and Mike Caliendo at left guard, in my opinion. And I wanted to give some of that leeway and really try to buy into the growing pains of, hey, it's going to take a little bit of time for Wanya Morris to get comfortable. Or it's going to take a little bit of time for Kingsley Suamataia to get comfortable in that spot. But we're now 12 games into the season. How many more weeks can you go and say, well, it's just a bad game for him? No, and maybe I could be wrong here. Maybe when we hear Andy Reid a little bit later on in the show, we are going to get the feedback of, well, he wasn't good tonight. We felt like it was the right move to move Toney, but we believe in him. And he's going to go back out there against the Chargers. We believe in him. Or you got to make the decision now. Because kind of like with Suamataia, when you had to bench him not once but twice, okay, we just need to take a gap year here. Maybe let's just calm things down. Let's work in practice. You're not going to need to worry about starting another game at left tackle. When it comes to Wanya Morris, don't get me wrong. There have been bright moments. There have been good moments for Wanya Morris. But when you're a left tackle for the number 1 seed in the AFC, you can't have performances like this and expect to be run back out there again. And it's pretty rare, in my opinion, that the Chiefs just have to bench a guy middle of the game. We can't take it anymore. And hopefully, the best plan in this situation would be DJ Humphries coming in and starting and just being as fine as Donovan Smith was. Maybe that's not best case. Maybe that's just a good case there. Best case is he's a great left tackle, and you feel like you've been missing something all season long, and there was your answer. Because Joe Toney can go back to left guard. It's also tough for a guy to come in who has been playing all year long and play a solid left tackle. There's hope, and I don't want to use that phrase of it can't get any worse, because it can. Right? Maybe the inconsistency with Wanya Morris is what you have to deal with the rest of the year. But today, to me, at least just to me, I think that was a very clear message being sent of this play is not good enough. It's really not. We've had to really make with what we had in the wide receiver room. We've lost key guys there. And yet every single week somebody steps up. Today it's Justin Watson. DeAndre Hopkins had a good game despite that one drop he had. Noah Gray, though he's not a wide receiver, but he's in the pass-catching group. He's had 3 straight weeks of really good football. But why is it with this offensive line, and even Jawan Taylor twice, gets called for illegal formation? I don't know how. It just continues to happen. Maybe he's just going to continuously be picked on, but I don't know all the, alignment type of stuff of if he's going out there and he's pointing, saying, am I good? Because I remember it was against the Broncos. Patrick Mahomes was caught on the hot mic of asking the officials, hey, will you let me know if he's close or not? That's all I ask, and that way I can tell him if he's not lined up correctly, we're not getting a penalty there. And then a few weeks later, 2 penalties in this game. I mean, it's just frustrating to see that over and over and over again. And with Wanya Morris, he is a young player. You're not expecting him to be an all-pro. But today, you just can't have that, even with somebody like Max Crosby, because you know what? In the postseason, even if it's not Max Crosby or it's Trey Hendrickson or it's one of those top pass rushers out there, you're going to be facing a good defensive line. You're going to be facing a good defense. And if Patrick Mahomes is getting no time and it's coming from the blind side, that could be the downfall of this group. It really could. And the second cornerback spot, it was an issue once again today. Busted coverage, getting beat one-on-one. And I know you're not going to see the Raiders or Aiden O'Connell again, but doesn't it sound weird hearing that? We don't need to worry about Aiden O'Connell and his 340. We don't need to worry about Brock Bowers. I mean, the Chiefs have had their fair share of struggles defending tight ends this year. I mean, today, thrilling if you're there, cold weather. A win is a win. If you want to be positive, I'm not going to rain on your parade because I would love to hear both sides to this. I know we're going to have angry callers. I know we're going to have happy callers. You're 11-1, but I think we can all agree on the fact some of these weaknesses that have been masked in these wins, they can't be masked when you're playing good football teams. The Raiders, even though they played their ass off tonight, they're not a good football team. They're 2-10. The Bills showed in a couple of those spots a few weeks ago, hey, those weaknesses, let's attack those. Number 2 cornerback spot, let's attack those. Offensive line play, especially from the tackle positions, let's go after those. That's why the Chiefs have only one loss on their schedule, and that's Buffalo. Against some of those bad teams, they've been able to mask it. And even early on, beating Baltimore, beating Cincinnati, good teams, even though Cincinnati's 4-7, good team. They were able to mask it because it was early on. Everybody's getting comfortable. They're getting their footing down. And I'm not trying to say that the Chiefs are the only team that's struggling with issues. Everybody's got problems. There's no perfect team in this league. It's why we saw Pittsburgh lose to a two-win Cleveland team. I'm trying to remember who that was. We saw Baltimore lose to a bad Cleveland team. We've seen bad teams win. It happens. The Ravens also lost to the Raiders earlier this year when everybody was still finding their footing. So 11-1 is 11-1. You'll hear me say that throughout this show tonight. But this week is different than last week, in my opinion. I was able to feel a little bit better about a 30-27 win against Carolina, who was playing better football, got some help in the running back room, and it was on the road. I could feel better about that. Today, you should have lost that game. And I know it shoulda, woulda, coulda stuff, but if the Raiders just could have had one more snap and kneeled down, they're kicking a game-winning field goal. It wasn't a gimme. Don't get me wrong on that. But they started that drive inside their own 10 and just marched it down the field. The Chiefs gave the Raiders the middle of the field, and they took everything and ran with it. And then it took a bad snap, nobody on the same page. The Chiefs fall on it. They win. It's 19-17. They're 11-1, and they will look to Sunday Night Football next week against the Chargers. But I'm sure a lot of you have thoughts about being frustrated from tonight's game. We'll get to your thoughts and maybe some player audio next on the Red and Gold Postgame Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. It was not a pretty game. But the Chiefs get it done, 11-1. They will look to the Los Angeles Chargers coming into Arrowhead Stadium next Sunday night. Again, we're going to have it right here, the Red Gold Postgame Show, brought to you by Boda Box Wine. You can kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. So as long as no player is coming up here in the next few seconds or so, we should be able to get to the callers. Dylan tells me it'll be Patrick Mahomes coming up next. So let's jump on the phone lines here. I'm curious how many callers are positive and how many callers are really pissed off after this game today. Let's kick things off with Kyle. Kyle, are you happy or mad about the 19-17 win tonight?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Hey, no, you can't apologize for a win in the NFL. There are a couple things. By the way, I have a couple positives and a couple negatives.
Okay.
I'm trying to make it quick. First things first, I thought the defense played a lot better today than they did last week against Carolina. I know they gave up some big plays. I understand, but you got to give credit to Brock Bowers,
For sure.
the Raiders tight end. That I don't care what. I mean, he was triple covered and he still made some plays. I mean, so I have to give credit where credit is due to Brock Bowers. Heck of a player, heck of a tight end. I think he's probably one of the best in the NFL. So I'm going to give him credit there. But our defense made plays when they needed to make plays. They got to the quarterback. They were stopping the run. So I can't give the defense too much fault there at all. I thought they played better today. Karlaftis played a lot better. Chris Jones played a lot better. They were getting to the quarterback. So I'm going to give credit to the defensive line today and the secondary. They made a couple big plays. So that's my first point. Second point is the offensive line, again, like you said, Morris and by the way, you went all about Morris, and I don't think I need to talk much about Morris, but Jaron Taylor, there's another weak point, our right tackle. He had a couple more penalties today. How many more can we take of Jaron Taylor? Is there anybody we can put in the right tackle spot? Is there anybody besides Jaron Taylor who doesn't commit false starts or holding penalties or illegal formations? I mean, Jaron Taylor, again, this is like his third week now that he's had his name called. Where is enough? And I understand maybe we don't have anybody else there, but is there anybody that we can move around to put in his spot? Because I'm getting kind of sick of the Jaron Taylor show. That's my second point. Third point is the running. We kind of stopped running the ball. After Isaiah Pacheco, big run, all of a sudden we kind of went away from the run. Now, I understand we have the best quarterback in the league, but it seemed like that whole second half, except for maybe a couple, is where we were just passing. I wish they would have ran the ball more in the second half to open up the play-action pass and maybe not get Mahomes sacked as much, take some pressure off the offensive line, because the running game was working today. I don't know what the play calling was today, but I thought in that second half they should have ran the ball more to set up the play-action pass. I'll listen off the air, but thank you for taking my call. But, hey, a win is a win. We're 11-1. We clinched the playoff spot. This is a good win for the Chiefs. I'll take it. All it is right now is to win games, get that number one seed, and win the division. Thank you for taking my call, and I'll listen off the air.
Hey, appreciate the phone call, Kyle. And I do think there are some things there I will agree with you with. Number one, Brock Bowers had a hell of a game, and Brock Bowers is a stud. So when you have a guy making plays, it's not just that the defense sucks or nobody can guard him. Sometimes that guy's just going to make great plays, great catches. He's going to find the open spots. He's going to run a good route. That I do agree with you with. The defense, I guess you could make a point that they were better today than against Carolina. They were certainly better in the first half. I'll give you that. because the Raiders only had 3 points, and I believe those 3 points were also set up by, maybe it was a big returner, though. That might have been another drive. However, the issue I have is that they gave up 434 yards of offense to the Raiders. And I was telling Dylan this off air. Unless I'm missing a game, they have not picked off a quarterback since San Francisco when they picked off Brock Purdy 3 or 4 times. Coincidentally, that was also when Jalen Watson was still playing. So since he went down, again, unless I'm missing a game, this team is struggling to turn the ball over, and they're giving up a lot of chunk plays, and I just don't feel that great when Aiden O'Connell, who hasn't been playing now for a large portion of time, comes in, and in his first game back, he goes for 340 and 2 touchdowns. And you haven't played the best quarterbacks other than Josh Allen over the last 5 or so weeks. You got Bryce Young. You got Baker Mayfield without his 2 best weapons. Bo Nix came in here and looked super comfortable, though he's now playing really good football in his rookie season. But right now, I am a little bit alarmed by that secondary. But I will give you this, though, Kyle. I think Brock Bowers was phenomenal. He's going to be an absolute pest for the Chiefs for years to come in Las Vegas. And if they do get a Bo Nix-type quarterback next season that can play well in his rookie season, we might see a damn good year from Bowers in Las Vegas. Let's go back to the phone lines. Let's hear from Gary. Gary, what's on your mind, man?
Well, a few things. First off, I think you could look at every area of the team tonight, and they all had issues. The coverage teams weren't that great. The long returns, the setup. You can't give a team a short field no matter who it is, because when you're not stopping them, giving a team a short field isn't a good thing. Defensively, there were times they need to tighten the coverage. If you're not going to cover anybody, at least jam them at the line and disrupt the routes. They needed to start doing more of that, because it's just hard. They made Jacoby Myers look like Randy Moss. You can't have these no-name receivers doing this to you. And Trent McDuffie looks ordinary. I don't know if he had a nice wingman last year with Snead or what, but as the season's gone on, he hasn't looked the same. And everybody says that Spagnuolo's defenses get better as the season goes on. Well, right now we're seeing the opposite, and this defense is trending in the wrong direction. The defensive line, granted they had a few sacks, but against the run they were horrendous. Pennell, Nadia, and I've talked about it, guys that are pedestrian, and you bring Pennell back, he's also over the age of 30. You're not going to get a lot of production from a guy that age. But Spagnuolo's got to make some changes. And to Andy Reid, when you get down inside the 5, scrap that shuttle pass. You're just wasting a down. And when you're a team that's having the issues that you are in the red zone, you can't afford to be wasting downs. I'll hang up and listen. Great show.
Hey, I appreciate it, Gary, and it's actually perfect timing here because any second now we should be getting Isaiah Pacheco. So I didn't want to cut you off too short there, but hey, the frustrations are going to be there today. And I think with Trent McDuffie, what is a little bit unfortunate for him is that he's so great in the slot, but when you don't have Jalen Watson out there, he's forced to line up outside a lot. And I always think Trent McDuffie, he's a damn good cornerback. I'm not going to go as far to say that he looks ordinary, but he shines when he's in the slot. And when you are banged up in the secondary and you're struggling with Najee Johnson out there and Josh Williams and Shamari Connor, that's going to take away a lot of the strengths there. And I think that's what we've seen now, really going back to the Denver game, in my opinion. And again, we're also going to be getting to the phone calls from Jerry, Travis, and Crush as soon as we hear from Isaiah Pacheco. Let's go to the podium now.
I've been missing it. I've been backed up on anger. So being able to let that anger out on the field was a blessing.
What was going through your mind? It seemed like you're pretty fired up, obviously, when coming through the tunnel for the entrance, just hearing the crowd.
Yes, what was going through my mind was I don't know what I'm going to do when I get out this tunnel. I haven't done it in a while. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm a dog. Let me see. I'm going to get down all fours. Let me crawl. So that was going through my mindset during the moment.
What were your observations about the position in your absence and Kareem's job?
Yes, hats off to him stepping up. It's been a tough run. He's been awesome leading the room. Everybody's been following the leaders. And most importantly for me, just pinpointing the details in the meeting room for when I had the opportunity to get out and show my ability was to focus on the details, the chips, the check downs, and just the little things that will make my game a little bit better today.
You mentioned being angry out there, Isaiah. What was it like just throughout this period of making sure that you got yourself right and just how tough this decision to do?
Yes, with the great training staff we have, they did a phenomenal job not rushing me, not throwing things at me. We build it up every day. We came back with something. I was able to come back with something that's happened in practice. Either I was sore or just being able to work through the moment of being hurt and just not satisfied. I know that the team, coaches, everybody had my back, and it shows here when you got guys flying around and excited to play football.
What did you need to feel comfortable with that ankle, making cuts and stuff like that after the injury?
I needed to go out at practice and not think about it, just hit it. Make the hardest exaggeration cut as I can so I could feel it, so I could go back to the training room and the staff and I felt it today. This is where I felt it. So I could have something to go in and say, more so not going as hard, and I can't go in after practice and this happened, I felt good. So I wanted to make sure I was going hard as I can so the little things weren't effective.
What was your vantage point of that last play where the defense got the fumble? You were just helpless out there on the bench watching. What did you see? Did you understand exactly what happened when it happened?
Yes, definitely. During that moment, I was talking to Kareem, and I was telling him, let's get ready. We get the ball. Kareem was still like, we got the ball? I'm like, yeah, we got the ball. We're getting it. Let's go. So I was just super hype and just running up to the O-lineman, just getting everybody going. The energy that I've been holding in, I'm just trying to share it with everybody.
Isaiah, the last 2 months mentally, just how was that challenge of just knowing you had to do a little bit each day and ultimately?
It's challenging. You got days you come in and you don't want to work. You got, you could go as hard as you can. You could get distractions. You got guys that's healthy running around, in and out the facility. But you as a player, you got to focus on what you got to come there to do. And for me, that was to get better day in, day out, and eliminate distractions. I know I wanted to go out to the hot tub, the cold tub, just do those extra things. But during the moment, I had to focus in on what I had in plan, and then on my own time, do the extra stuff.
Was there a moment in the game where you felt like, oh, I'm back?
Yes. That was that second carry, I believe, and I gave a little contact against number 41. Still remember the number. It's crazy.
How about the 34-yard run? What was the kind of mindset going through that?
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of a run I did out there before. So just having that mindset of being patient, slow to fast through will allow me to just open up the game more. And I wasn't trying to get a home run or touchdown. I just wanted to get the first down and keep the yardage moving.
Yeah, man, I'm super proud we got the win. The game was kind of in our favor early. I got lows in the third quarter. Kind of hurt us a little bit. Start the fourth quarter. And then, it's got a fun way to win. We're happy with 11-0. 11-1, but a lot of stuff to clean up.
And you mentioned the explosive passes earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of them again today. I guess what do you think needs to get cleaned up there?
Yeah, man, as a whole, man, all 11. We got to be more dialed in on making them take the long, car road. Since I've been here, Spags' preaching hasn't changed, but we just got to find ways to make them take the long, car road, eliminate explosive plays, man, and just make them make contested, tough catches, and some of them are wide open.
Nick, we'll check that for a few plays. What exactly happened, and where are you at right now?
Yeah, man, I just made a tackle, took a knee to the groin area, didn't really feel too good, but yeah, man, I'm good now. Took a couple plays, kind of get back right, but I'm in a good space now.
Hey, back to the final snap a second. When the officials were huddling, what were you thinking, or what did you think had happened?
I thought it was either a legal shift or a legal formation, maybe. I didn't think we were offsides. I didn't think we jumped the snap early because it was a botched snap. So honestly, I knew we had the ball pretty much. I just waited for the confirmation. If it was on them, I think it would have been a 10-second runoff with like 1 second left. So I think that would have helped us out in that favor. Maybe kick a quick field goal.
Nick, earlier in the game, you guys had the 4th-and-1 stop with you and Charles. Can you just take us through that play? You've had a knack for some 4th-down stops this season.
Yeah, just kind of flowed the game. Early in the game, they were in the same formation. Brock Bowers ran a jet sweep, picked up 3 yards. Same formation, same motion. It might not have been a motion on that play, but then just ran the complement. It was downhill run play. I saw the beat gap open. Had Charles went out and looped out. I shot the gap man, and Drew shot from the other side. I made him cut back to me. I was able to get a stop.
Adam. Nick, you guys clinched the playoff spot today, as you probably know. Does this one feel any different than the others since you've been here, just because of the down to the wire nature of a lot of these games?
Quite honestly, no. I honestly kind of feels weird because it's so early. Usually it's a little bit later in the season we're able to clinch a playoff berth since I've been here. But yeah, I mean, we're happy we're able to clinch a playoff berth, but we got a long way to go to get to our end goal.
Nick, it felt like there were some positive signs at the first and second level today.
Yeah.
Build up there. How close do you feel to maybe being back to that defense you guys want to be?
Yeah, man, we preached early about getting our striker back, and we were able to kind of get that going. And then we had an explosive kickoff return. And we've been preaching about, like, it doesn't matter where we get the ball at. Maybe kick a field goal, we give them an explosive pass and give them a touchdown on that play. But I think there's some things we can clean up in the first half. I thought we played good. I thought communication was good. I thought pre-snap looks and disguises and different things dispatched within. I think that was good in a short week. I just got to find ways in the third quarter to kind of make them kick field goals and eliminate explosive passes again.
Charles Minihue was back.
Yeah.
It looked like he was all over the place, inside, outside.
Yeah.
I saw a couple of times you were trying to help him get lined up right gap or something, but what did you guys see from him, and what does he add coming back?
Yeah, man, versatility, like you said, rushing on the inside, rushing on the outside. He can play a 3, the shade, the end. So it adds a little versatility to our rush. I mean, it's football, man. He's been sitting down for a little bit. I missed a lot of camp, so if there's some nuggets or something I can help him out with, I'm definitely going to do that. But yeah, man, I think Charles is a pro. He's been doing this for a long time. He's understanding the playbook, understanding what's his role, and he excels in his role. So I think he's definitely going to help us as we progress and keep going.
Nick, it's a little bit of frustration maybe last week because it wasn't exactly what you guys wanted to. Maybe you kind of said this week. What's it feel like to you guys right now? Frustrated, happy? What is it?
Yeah, man, we're happy. We got to win, clinch the playoff berth. We got this extended rest time. We're going to use it to our favor. Kind of get back. I think we're pretty healthy at this point. We got a lot of guys coming back. But kind of just like it on the film. This last game we played, we didn't really get to dive into the film because it was a short week. So these extra days, we can watch 2 games, get the communication right, get the eyes right, and kind of be on the X's and O's on what we got to do.
Nick Patrick talked about, 1 week is the offense playing well, 1 week is the defense.
Yeah.
But at the end of the year last year, you guys all came together to play that complementary football.
Yep.
Do you remember what sparked that, or kind of what brought everything together? And if so, kind of how do you get back to that, or what?
Yeah, man, I think it's a lot of moving parts everywhere. I think, especially we got a lot of young guys playing, and so there's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some things we got to kind of figure out, what's the best thing for those guys as well. I think we're trending in the right direction. I think last year's prior, end of November, heading to December, is kind of where we've been hitting our stride, and we got 2 wins underneath our belt, but a lot of work to go. So I think it's just going to take dedication, it's going to take determination, it's going to take discipline. I think those 3 things are going to help us take us to the next level.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that was Nick Bolton, and apparently the Chiefs are going to be sending basically everybody to the podium here, just one by one. I have never seen everybody go so quickly at the podium, at least the early guys, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. So, again, we're going to have to keep postponing until we finally get Chris Jones at the podium. he should be the last guy that we hear from, and then we will be getting the thoughts from Jerry, Travis, and Crush. I apologize to you guys who've been waiting on the line for a real long time, but we do got to get those guys live right here on the Red and Gold Postgame Show, brought to you by Boda Box Wine. If it tells you one thing, it's certainly that these guys are, I guess, somewhat satisfied, but maybe a little bit irritated that now back-to-back weeks, a bad football team has taken them to the brink. And again, I'm sure the guys that are waiting on the line with their thoughts about this game might mirror that, might echo that, that this team is frustrated with the way they've played. They know they're better than this. They know that some things are out of sync, and it's just been problematic now in the last few weeks. It led to their first loss of the year against Buffalo. I think that was more so about the talent that Buffalo had than Kansas City's weaknesses. And you're listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB. But against these two teams, a 3-win Carolina team and a 2-win Raiders team, it went down to the wire. And maybe Carolina wasn't going to win that game ever because it took a drive and a 2-point conversion. They gave the ball back to Kansas City with tons of time left. Patrick Mahomes drove down the field, had a 30-plus yard run, set up Spencer Schrader, have the game-winning field goal. But today, that's on the Raiders just blowing that game. Absolutely on them coughing that game up. All right, we're still waiting on Chris Jones to get to the podium. How about the timing of all this, Dylan? I mean, I have never seen Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes go so quickly, and we fit in so many players right after a game because usually we get to the thoughts of the callers, but hey, I mean, they're sending everybody up there one by one. Sometimes it's only one guy that goes up to the podium, but 3 main guys were actually, Dylan's going to tell me, we're going to see if we can squeeze in Jerry's thoughts. He's been waiting for 50 minutes. Jerry, we might have to cut you short, but what'd you think about the game today?
Hey, you guys are fine. I'm glad mad. I'm not sad mad. There's a big difference. I'm glad they won. I'm mad that the things that happened at the end of the game took away from all the cool things that happened during the game, like the greatest lateral roller of all time, throwing it back to P. Ryan. That was so cool. And who else? Oh, Chris Jones, 2 sacks. And Patrick Mahomes throwing the most touchdowns of any quarterback for the Chiefs. He just passed Lenny Dawson.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll let you go. I appreciate you guys. Hopefully I get the chance to crack a joke on Jason.
I appreciate the phone call, Jerry, and thank you for being so patient. Same with Travis and Crush. Hopefully we get Chris Jones here quickly. He'll be able to have a quick answer, and we'll get your thoughts on this 19-17 win. Actually, Dylan tells me let's go to Travis. Travis, you're on the Red and Gold Postgame Show.
Yeah, thanks for taking the calls, guys. I know it seems like tonight's kind of crazy. I think they're sending everybody up there because everybody's pissed off and they're just trying to get the hell out of the building.
Absolutely.
Would be my guess. So I don't know. Like, it feels different this year. I know everybody keeps pointing to the fact that, you know, they were able to do it last year and they played bad and then they were able to right the ship and win the Super Bowl. Last year was not the norm. It was an anomaly. They look worse this year. At least last year we had an elite defense. We knew we could at least keep them in games. This year, neither one are very good right now. And I'm not saying they can't get better, but, I mean, Wanye Morris, I honestly am so shocked that it took him that long to get him out of the game. He was olaying people by him. Like, I've never even heard of this Chase-on guy, but he looked like a freaking monster out there today.
He did.
You know, the guy from Carolina last week, everybody keeps talking about Max Crosby last week and this week. These aren't household names that were getting these sacks and getting these pressures. Crosby did do some of it, but let's not make it out like these are elite talents that were destroying our left and right tackles. You know, these are just some dudes. As Petro likes to say, some jags. And they got a real problem. Like this reminded me of the Super Bowl against the Bucs a little bit. Maybe not as bad, but I definitely had flashbacks of watching Pat just you know, I had a friend of mine go, he nukes another deep shot. I'm like, he's laying vertical on his back. Like, he's getting crushed as he's releasing the ball, which, again, Andy Reid, you know that your tackles are turnstiles tonight. Why are you picking that play on a
Sorry, we do have to cut you short real quick, Travis, there, because Chris Jones down at the podium. Let's get to Chris Jones.
Well, they seen the ball kicked, and I don't think the receiver was lined up correctly. So it was like 2 or 3 different calls on that play. And I was talking with the other ref, I think the side judge, and he was like, y'all going to have the ball. I was like, it's over with, dude. Let me get off the field. I'm tired anyway, so let's go home.
Chris, you guys had a lot of success knocking them out of the field goal range, or at least to a long field goal 3 times and then a 4th one. What went into that success when they got to the point at the 30, between the 30 and the 40 that you guys were able to make sure you held them to no points?
I think it's been a cohesive unit, front 4 rushing together. I think George came up with a critical sack, knock him out. And also Nate down close to the 40-yard line, knocked him out with the pass deflection. I think more so playing disciplined football on defensive-wise. Gave up a lot of errors today. Last game also, I think we eliminate the small penalties and eliminate the big plays also. I think we gave up 2 or 3 bombs today. We eliminate the big plays and the penalties. I think we'll be where we want to be as a defense.
Christian, you guys are working together as a former rush. What do you feel like worked better than, say, this past Sunday and obviously let's get 2 sacks?
Well, we got him down for one. I think we've been rushing good overall as a group. We got Charles Amini who back, who has versatility to this line, inside, outside. I think this time we were just able to get the quarterback down.
Chris, do you feel like your biggest takeaway is going to be the errors or the time you guys came through this day?
I think it's more so the errors, things you can correct. You know what I mean? Self-inflicted wounds. I have 2 offsides today, which one gave him a first down and another one moved him closer. I got to be better on that. And then just penalties, pass interference penalties, hands to the face penalties. Little things like that can add up throughout the season, especially in the playoff. We want to kind of get that in check, eliminate the smaller penalties, and then still play physical. Don't take away from the physicality part of how we play in our defense, but just correct the errors.
Do you feel like this time of year you would hope to be farther along with some of those things you're making mistakes in, or it's just sort of the flow of the season?
It's the flow, man. It's the flow. We got a lot of guys down. We're getting a lot of guys back. A lot of new faces, right? So kind of trying to build that chemistry along the defense and smaller errors. You know, it's part of the game.
I appreciate you being tired. Just considering your early bye, how much do you look forward to these 2.5 days? How much can that help the team?
Hey, listen, man. This is one thing I'm doing this off season is going to the NFLPA, especially with us having like 3 games in a 10-day span. That we're mandatory to have a late bye week. You know what I mean? Because with our schedule, it's kind of awkward, to say the least. We play 3 games in 10 days. Then we got a Christmas game coming up. 4 days after that, we got another game. You know what I mean? So I think that's a conversation to be had this offseason. If a team have somewhat of a schedule like that they have a mandatory late season bye. Like, we don't need a week 4 bye. Like, what are we getting the bye for? You know what I mean? Then if you're counting how far we go in the previous season, and we go into the championship in the last 3 to 4 years, it's like we don't need a week 4 bye. Give it to us in week 8 or week 10, something like that.
Chris, you mentioned getting Charles Amini back. What do you see from him? Was he right back like he never left?
We had to calm Charles down. He's excited. You know what I mean? When emotions going everywhere. He haven't played in a year, and you know how that goes. You know, when you're excited to be back, you kind of can overthink things. I had to tell him you're a little rusty. It's okay though. It's okay, right? You haven't played that much, but I think overall he played a heck of a game. Probably didn't show up on the stat sheet, but it's okay. It's okay. It's first game back. We didn't expect you to have 5 sacks first game back, but we continue to expect him to build off of that. You know what I mean? And continue to be able to play more along the season.
Chris, last one. Say no, Chris. You hadn't showed up on the stat sheet a couple of weeks about sacks. You got a couple sacks today. I know you don't count personal things, but it's got to be pretty good to get quarterback down.
Man, it's been 8 weeks. Okay, I feel like I've been in the cave. But I get it. A lot of things I do is to open up things for other people on the defense, and I keep telling y'all, I'm going to get my numbers. You know what I mean? It's like, I got 5 games left. I'm at 5 sacks. I get a sack a game. That's 10 sacks. And, you know, I'm where I'm at want to be. You know what I mean? So it's like, for me, if I was chasing numbers, then I can get them because some things I can do within the defense, but it can kind of ruin the defense. That's the selfless act, you know. It's like a give and take type of thing between me and Spags. But yeah, I'm gonna get my numbers. It's just a different way, man. It's a different way.
Last one. Chris, there's so much talk about you guys needing to improve to get to where you want to go. Can you guys benefit from all these close games and pulling these out come playoff time and using that experience?
Absolutely. When you look at the playoffs, most games are close, down to the wire type of games. So it's a lot we can build from this as a team overall. And we're just going to keep on winning, man. Keep on winning. You can learn a lot from winning, you know what I mean? It's better to win than have a pretty loss, okay? So we'll take a ugly win, build from it, and continue to get better. Y'all take care. Happy belated Thanksgiving.
All right, that is the final Chiefs player we'll be taking live at the podium. Chris Jones there talking after the 19-17 win against the Raiders. I felt terrible. We had to cut Travis short because he was saying a lot of great stuff out there. I think one of the most important takeaways I had from Travis's call, and I appreciate his patience, he was great there on the line. We had to cut him short because Chris Jones walked to the podium, was that these were not elite guys rushing every single time. Max Crosby's an elite guy. He's one of the best pass rushers out there. Everybody else for the defensive line for the Raiders, they are fine, but you could also characterize them as just, the average defensive line guys. It's a defense that hasn't been phenomenal this year. I thought the Raiders' defense was actually going to be much better than they've shown this year, but even the tackles struggled in defending guys not named Max Crosby. You tip your cap to them. They were great, but also start to wonder how much of an issue is it becoming on both sides of the offensive line with Juwan Taylor and Wanya Morris. All right, we have been keeping Crush waiting way too long. Crush, round us out here for the phone calls in the Red and Gold postgame show.
Yeah, good calls, and appreciate the insight of the players. I want to say, obviously, I'm concerned. 15's been running for his life all year long. But I'm going to be the happy caller because – I'm going to sound a little contradictory because I don't take beating these guys for granted. I just don't. I do not. Jamarcus Russell won a football game in Arrowhead Stadium, okay? I do not take beating these guys for granted. But on the other hand, it's amazing. It doesn't matter what city that football team plays in. They're going to shoot themselves in the foot. Okay, even back in the 90s, they'd be in a position to win, and next thing you know, it's 3rd and 30. It's amazing. So anyway, you guys keep up the good work.
Hey, appreciate it. Short and sweet from Crush. And thank you to everybody who was waiting on the line for about 50 minutes to an hour. We did not anticipate so many guys going to the podium. And another step with that, going so long at the podium. How many games now? 12 games, Dylan, we've been doing this. I don't think we've had that many guys go during one period, one segment, and also go as long as they were able to do up there at the podium. But you heard a lot there from the Chiefs guys. And as Crush told us, it was good insight. It was good insight after a game like that. We will be having the locker room report coming up here shortly. And yes, we do have some audio from Wanya Morris, his thoughts after getting benched in this game against the Las Vegas Raiders. We'll go to that coming up next on the Red and Gold postgame show brought to you by Boda Box Wine on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Sweet play of the game, and it's brought to you by Andy's Frozen Custard. Enjoy a treat and give to a great cause. The 87 Concrete, crafted by Travis Kelce himself, consists of vanilla frozen custard, Oreo cookie dough, and cream caramel. A portion of the proceeds go to support Travis Kelce's 87 and Running Foundation. Top your day with a smile at Andy's. And you were locked in to the Red and Gold Postgame Show, which is brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. Well, the postgame stuff is just as wacky, I guess, as the game was. Lots of different guys going to the podium. You heard from Chris Jones. You heard from Nick Bolton. A little bit later on, you're going to be hearing from Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, as we do every single Red and Gold postgame show. And also here coming up shortly, we're going to hear from Wanya Morris, who was benched in this game against the Las Vegas Raiders. Lots of pressures on Patrick Mahomes, so much so that he was visibly frustrated after one of the times he got sacked in the red zone. It was also the last play, I believe, that Wanya Morris was out there as Joe Thuney moved to left tackle and Mike Caliendo went to left guard for the remainder of that game. Now, there were positives, right? We had a couple of positive phone callers. That was what I was wondering at the beginning part of this show. Who was going to be angry? Who was going to be positive? Who was just going to be flat out frustrated? But a win is a win. I believe we heard Kyle say that. I believe we heard Crush say that. A win is a win. You're 11-1, and you got the number one seed in the AFC. And if there's any team to be all right with winning ugly, it is the Chiefs, because they did it last year, and they were able to win the Super Bowl for the second consecutive year. Does that mean they're going to do it again this year? It does not. I believe Travis was the one saying that. As, hey, just because you did it last year doesn't mean you're going to do it again this year. There might be bigger weaknesses on this team, despite having a better record, than there were last year. You're dealing with more injuries. You're dealing with lesser play from offensive line positions. I mean, damn, Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith just continue to dominate. Juwan Taylor did have a great stretch this season, but now it feels like the last 3 weeks there's been issues again, being penalized. And now Wanya Morris, who, again, we're going to hear from rather shortly, he had maybe his worst game of the season. I mean, I will go as far to say that because he was benched. And I'm curious if he was all right with getting benched, if he feels like he's going to be the starter moving forward, if he's got to win that job back. I'm fascinated to know. But I think the main takeaway today was certainly the left tackle play because there was a rotation in the fourth quarter, I might add. And then you get to the defense. I mean, I know there was some positive thoughts about holding the Raiders to 17 points. Anytime you hold an opponent to less than 20, you're going to have a chance to win a lot of games with Patrick Mahomes. But Aiden O'Connell threw for 340. And I think that's what stops me in my tracks because ever since Jalen Watson went down, and you heard me say this last week, when Jalen Watson went down, that's when you saw this secondary get picked on a little bit more. You saw Najee Johnson, who once again was burned today, get picked on. You saw Shamari Connor get picked on a little bit more. I think Brian Cook and Justin Reed got picked on a little bit today. They'll all have faith that Justin Reed can have things figured out. He was great last year. He was great early on this year. And you're going to have those missteps. You're going to have those miscommunication moments. It's just now becoming a little bit more of a regular thing. And when it is a regular thing, it starts to make you anxious, makes you sweat a little bit more. I mean, hell, you go back to week 5, week 6, you look at playing Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson in January, you're not worried. Hey, this is one of the best defenses in all of football. And I do believe that if this defensive line can go back to just putting a ton of heat on the quarterback in the same way they did in the previous matchup against the Raiders, sacking Gardner Minshew 5 times, then it takes away a lot of that stress on the secondary. Najee Johnson's not having to cover for so long down the field. But some of those plays today, Brock Bowers in the touchdown right after that. It's not like it was just, well, a Chris Jones or a George Karlaftis couldn't get in the backfield. They were quick throws. Just getting burned in coverage. And to me, that's just not going to fly in January. And it's hard to overcome a lot of injuries like Kansas City has done and just time in and time out win these games late. But right now, I'm worrying about what left tackle can become and if a Najee Johnson or a Josh Williams or even a Keith Taylor can step up in that role and hold down the fort. I mean, another move we saw today was, I believe, Keith Taylor came in for Najee Johnson not long after he got burned on a drive. So now you're having to mix and match again. Josh Williams got more run out there. And maybe this is just what you got to do in the final 5 games of the season. You just have to work out these issues. And you got to have faith in the coaching staff. You got to have faith in the guys that have done this before. But today, it just dampens your mood a little bit. It's Friday. You're off into the weekend now. It's still Thanksgiving week. Enjoy watching the games on Saturday and Sunday. Chiefs are 11-1, but like I said, you're dealing with the same issues you've been dealing with now ever since Jalen Watson went down, in my opinion, which was San Francisco. The quarterbacks you faced since then, well, you had Baker Mayfield in there. You had Bo Nix. Josh Allen certainly is an MVP-type guy. He's going to probably be either the top vote getter or the second leading vote getter. Maybe third if Patrick Mahomes continues to look the way he has with DeAndre Hopkins in that offense. But that's really the only game I can excuse bad defensive play. That's Josh Allen. It's in Orchard Park. I'm not too concerned about it. The play against Baker Mayfield without Chris Godwin and Mike Evans alarmed me a little bit. Bo Nix and how comfortable he looked at Arrowhead in his first start there alarmed me a little bit. As good as I think Bo Nix has been now for the last handful of weeks. The way Bryce Young looked, don't feel good about that. And then the way Aiden O'Connell looked, I can't live with that. I can't take that. I can't take this secondary giving up 340. And also, this is something I haven't even touched on when it comes to this defense. Oh, the great run defense this Chiefs they've had all year long. It wasn't very good today. Now, that was an area I thought they were going to be able to overwhelm Vegas and just make Aiden O'Connell beat you. But today, the Raiders had 116 yards on the ground. Nobody popped off for 100. Only guy to get over 100 scrimmage yards was Brock Bowers, but Jacoby Myers was 3 short of that, going 6 for 97. But you had Sincere McCormick go for 64 yards on 12 carries, and Amir Abdullah go for 10 carries and 39 yards. Like, that run defense just wasn't that great today. 434 total yards for the Las Vegas Raiders. They were only 3 of 12 on third down and 0 for 1 on fourth down. But they were just efficient today. And I think what maybe adds a little bit more pain to this, although it's a win, so how much pain is there really? The Raiders had 101 penalty yards in this game. They didn't really dominate time of possession. They left points on the board. You know, you had Daniel Carlson struggle from long range today, and there's no guarantee he would have drilled the game winner, but it took that botch snap just to secure that win. Defensively, there were issues. Offensive tackle play, there were issues. Right? Special teams unit, another short kick. What? I don't know if that's a Matthew Wright thing, and maybe I shouldn't hold him to it because it's not Harrison Butker out there. What a special teams mistake there. Now, Patrick Mahomes did reach another milestone. I'm sure we'll hear the audio of that a little bit later on in the show. Travis Kelce was great today. DeAndre Hopkins was great today. Isaiah Pacheco was back, had a big 30-plus yard run. It's nice to see that explosiveness in the backfield. There were some good plays for Xavier Worthy. Now, I can still highlight some of the positives, along with it being a win. But this is one of those wins I just don't know if I'm going to keep going back to the phrase, don't apologize for wins in the NFL. I still believe that, and it's a division rivalry, and they came into your house last year and beat you. But the fact the same guy nearly did it twice, back-to-back years, that floored me. And I think that's why Vegas had the spread at 13.5. No way in hell that happens again. They were damn close to having it happen twice in 2 years this afternoon at Arrowhead Stadium. All right, let's hear from Wanye Morris here as a part of our locker room report. Here was the Chiefs left tackle after the 19-17 win over the Las Vegas Raiders.
Got to be better, man. Got to be better in certain situations and just overall. Obviously, it's good to get the W, but, I'm disappointed in myself because I know I'm better than that, and I can perform better than that. So, apologize to my teammates. They did a good job lifting me up. But at the end of the day, you got to go out there and be better.
Anything specific? I mean, I know there's probably a few things, but what are you specifically going to be looking at?
One penalty is you can't win and do anything going backward. And just technique-wise, when it gets late in the game and those guys know you and know what you're going to do, finding a counterattack, finding something different to come out there with. And, that just comes with experience. It comes with learning. And this is just one of those things I had to learn. So get back to the drawing board and do it again.
What did you feel like when they told you weren't going back in? I mean, what's that feel like when you're going through that during the game?
Disappointment. Because, as a competitor, as an athlete, this is something you dream about. This is one of those games you dream about. So just going out there and just being better, man. I got to be better for myself, for my team, for my brothers, man. I just got to be better.
What's the process of doing that over the next few days, next week, whatever it might be?
Just more film, getting in the weight room, and just working on my technique, doing things after practice, just doing more than a regular person would, the average athlete would. You got to push your limits, and it's no better time to learn when you get your ass beat. I mean, it sucks to get your ass beat, but when you get your ass beat, hey, you either could have two responses. You can lay down or you can get back up and try something new. So I'm going to get back up and try something new. So it's going to be the last. For sure.
Yeah, that was Wanye Morris after the game, and I will always have respect for somebody that faces the media after the game. He was brutally honest. He said, you get your ass kicked, and you got to be better than that. You're disappointed the way you looked. Maybe that will sit well with fans, maybe it won't, but I always have respect for guys that face the media right after the game, and they're honest with their play. You didn't try to make any excuses there, and now it's about going and battling for that spot, because I'm going to be pretty surprised if this is a sure thing for Wanye Morris on Sunday Night Football against the Chargers. It could be DJ Humphries, it could be Joe Thuney and Mike Caliendo at left guard, or Wanye Morris could have a great week of practice, and he's right back there. But that was him after the game today, in which he got benched for Joe Tooney at left tackle and Mike Caliendo going to left guard. Let's also hear from Joe Tooney, who made that switch in the fourth quarter, and our very own Stephen St. John has the first question here. Or Matt Derrick.
What's the process in game when you're making a change? Andy Heck comes over to you or something? How do you kind of find out about it and go through the process?
Yeah, just Coach Heck told me he was going to left tackle, and just, whatever I could do for the team, happy to do, and glad we got the win. So, yeah.
Do you have to prepare for that mentally during the week or physically? Or like, how is that so you know that if they have to make that move, you're ready?
I think, just being an offensive lineman in this league, it's just trying to, do what I can for the team, and you never know what's going to happen in a game. Things happen, and just grateful to be out there. Got a great coaching staff, great O-line, great quarterback. The whole offense was very supportive, and so it's a big group effort, and just glad I can contribute.
And so they tell you in the fourth quarter, okay, you're bumping outside. So then, what's the next thing? You just start getting ready.
Yeah, next thing was I stood up and got a couple, practice sets, with a little more space. So yeah, just try to, keep with the fundamentals, keep decent technique as best I can, and just try and play through the whistle.
Do you anticipate being there going forward?
I'm just glad we got the win today, and I'm not sure. I just kind of take it day by day, and we'll look at this film, see what we can do to get better, get our bodies back for this little couple day off, and then go from there.
That first snap, you kind of see 98 out of the corner of your eye.
Yeah, I mean, they have a really good defense. They played really hard, and glad we got the win.
It's a lot better to work on these things after a win, though, right?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, it's hard to win in this league, and just glad we got that one today.
All right, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you.
So it was first question from Matt Derrick, second question from Stephen St. John. We're right there with Joe Tooney after the game today against the Las Vegas Raiders. That was your locker room report brought to you by Twin Peaks.
The Chiefs Locker Room Report is brought to you by Twin Peaks. No one does football like Twin Peaks. Whatever your preference, they have everything from tequila cocktails and an extensive bourbon category to top shelf spirits and cocktails served over ice balls. Local craft beers and handcrafted whiskey cocktails round out an adventurous drink menu, second to none. And don't forget about their 29-degree man-sized drafts at Twin Peaks.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll hear from head coach Andy Reid, get his thoughts after the Chiefs' 19-17 victory. It clinched a playoff berth for this team once again, though that wasn't much of a surprise. There was another milestone for Patrick Mahomes, who we'll hear from right after Andy Reid. But coming up next on the Red and Gold Postgame Show, it'll be Andy Reid right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. next defensive play of the game. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box is the premium boxed wine that wins with wine critics. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. We've waited long enough. It's now time to hear from the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, and Andy Reid. We do it every single week on the Red and Gold Postgame Show. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes and a few select players, which tonight we got a ton of players, and they were going up quickly to the podium. Wasn't really a break. I think everybody wanted to get home and enjoy the weekend after a pretty ugly 19-17 win, but you don't get docked any points, or you don't get given a loss for barely beating a team. This is the NFL. It's hard to win. I'm sure we'll hear Andy Reid touch on that a little bit in his post-game presser, but here is Andy Reid right after the 19-17 win over the Raiders.
All right. As far as the injuries go, really Nick Bolton was the only one that got hurt a little bit, but he was able to come back in the game, did a nice job finishing up. There were some good things. Most of all, the win was a positive here, and these things are hard to get in this league, and especially against this crew. They do a nice job, and against us, it seems like every time we play them, so it comes right down the end. So a couple of highlights. Pat had a big day. He's 25 for 43 for over 300 yards, touchdown. Kels had a big day with 7 catches for 68 yards, and D-Hop showed up with 4 catches for 90 yards. And we did a nice job on third downs. The red zone, we've got to do better there. We were 1 for 5 in the red zone, and that's not good enough when you're playing a team like this. So we've got to take care of business there. The 6 penalties on the offense and the defensive side was not a positive either. We've got to make sure we clean some of those things up. It's hard to go backwards in this league and win games, and we were doing it there a little bit. On the defensive side, Bolton had a nice day with 10 tackles, and the fumble recovery at the end was tremendous. George had a sack and a deflection, which was big, and then Chris Jones came up real big with the 2 sacks, and he was playing on the other side there. It was good to get Omenihu suited up and playing. And then our kicker, Matt, with 4 kicks. He had the long one that he missed, but that was a long shot to start with. And then the other ones that were more in that range where you've got to be consistent, he was consistent with. So, but the guys get a little bit of rest here, which I think is a good thing, coming off the short week and the kind of crazy schedule that we have. So they're going to get a couple days off, and I know they'll take advantage of that by resting up. So by that time, sure.
Yeah, it's twice tonight that we've heard from both Chris Jones and then Andy Reid about the games they've played in this stretch of days here. I believe Chris Jones said 3 in 10 days. That's a lot, right? And there was no need for the Chiefs to have an early bye week this year. You're kind of hoping to rest up, get that bye week later on in the season, but now it's pretty much, full go, excuse me. And the Chiefs have, I think, been reeling a little bit. I think we've now seen that now with the Carolina game and the Raiders game. That can't get lost in this discussion. And the struggles they had today may have been attributed to the wear and tear, to being a little bit fatigued. But everybody in the NFL is dealing with fatigue. It's not just Kansas City. Here is Andy Reid on maybe the biggest story of the afternoon, which was the offensive line play.
Yeah, so Wanye was struggling a little bit. So moved Joe over there, Caliendo in a guard. I thought it was the right thing to do at that time. Talked to Andy about it. He agreed with it, and so we made that move. And just to solidify things, Pat took a few hits there, and so we were struggling at times.
How disruptive is it to your offense when that position's not solidified?
Well, I tell you, I think you know this, Sam, but I would tell you that it's disruptive to any offense if the quarterback's getting hit and not able to get the ball off, and so that can be a problem. Now listen, you're playing against a couple good players, and so, but you've got to do better than what we did there.
How about Wanye in there a little bit? He was disappointed himself for a couple of penalties as well. Those are things you just can't do in that spot, especially when you're struggling.
Yeah, good observation. Yeah, can't do that. So penalties are killers in this thing, and then the sacks are killers. So going backwards.
Yeah, the sacks were killers today for the offense, but it's all about working things out here now that you're 11-1. You want to grab the 1 seed, but it's a group that definitely values the postseason. They may be more conservative in the regular season, fixing some things, going through the growing pains. I question, what point do you stop with the growing pains? And maybe we're going to find out this week if Wanya Morris will be the starting left tackle, if it'll be Joe Thuney and Mike Caliendo at left guard, or if it's going to be DJ Humphries, who is brand new to this team, though now has had a couple weeks to prep, or I guess it would be a couple weeks come Sunday night against the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, one of the big positives today was that the Chiefs clinched a playoff spot. Here's Andy Reid on that.
Andy, you guys clinched a playoff spot today, as you know. Does this one feel any different given the down-the-wire nature of almost all these games?
Well, it's a lot earlier than the other ones.
Short and sweet there. I don't think you need to really be focused on clinching a playoff berth. That was always going to be a sure thing for Kansas City. Just didn't know which week it was going to be. But with the loss that Miami had last night and the Chiefs win today against the Raiders, they are now in the postseason. And it's just going to come down to these final 5 games or so to decide the number 1 seed in the AFC. Now, that final play was a wacky one. The Raiders were clearly not on the same page. An early snap, it was a false start, then it was an illegal shift. The Chiefs fall on the football. What did Andy Reid think of that chaotic final play?
Play at the end with the fumble and kind of what your view of it was and the referee's explanation. It's a little confusing.
Yeah, it wasn't confusing from our standpoint. We were good with it. They had to clarify a couple things, but it was a fumble, and they just wanted to make sure they had all the bases covered.
Yeah, I think Dylan here in the studio was the first one to point out that if it's an illegal shift, this game will be over. And he made that call. I'll tip my cap to him. It was an illegal shift, and that fumble was live. The Chiefs fell on it, and that was the game. Yet another one at Arrowhead Stadium that just comes down to the final play, the final seconds, and it's the Chiefs on the winning side of it. I believe they are now winners of 14 straight in one-score games, which breaks the 03-04 Patriots record. Just crazy stuff. The devil magic, as we like to call it. Next thing Andy Reid had the chance to go over was not going for it in the end on 4th down, but after a missed deep ball to Xavier Worthy that put it at 4th and 2 in the final minutes of the game, Patrick Mahomes put his helmet back on, was about to run back out there. They left the punt team on. Matt Araiza had a great punt to pin the Raiders inside the 10, though Aiden O'Connell moved down the field with ease. But here was Andy Reid on that decision to end up just punting it on 4th down.
Andy, how much consideration did you give going for it there?
Yeah, I did. I considered it. That's why I called the timeout there. Hindsight, it might have been a good thing to do it, although we came out with a win, so...
In most games this year, more so early on, it was a no-brainer. You punt the ball. This defense is playing well. You let this defense win you it. You're not going to need to be overly aggressive here. Now I do think you have to at least contemplate it a little bit more, if not make the decision to go for it when you're facing better teams this season. It's a better Chargers team you're going to see at Arrowhead Stadium on Sunday Night Football. Do you want to give the ball back to Justin Herbert with the way this defense is playing? Maybe the bigger problem was that on 3rd and 2, I don't hate passing it. I just don't want a deep ball to Xavier Worthy for a dagger shot. I don't need a 50-yard touchdown play. I need 2 yards. Just need 2 yards. You're listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB. But you missed the deep shot. Mahomes and Worthy have not really been on the same page when it's come to that, really, since the Chargers game in L.A. when they connected for that deep touchdown throw. Today, he had a step on him. But Patrick Mahomes just overthrew him just a little bit. I would have been fine just designing a play for maybe 3 options to pick up 2 yards, ice the game, and not have to worry about the defense going back out there, or in this case, not having to worry about going for it on 4th down. Andy Reid also talked about the play-calling distribution explanation, which comes down to him and Matt Nagy. Who's the ones making the play calls? I think we really know, but here's Andy Reid's words on it.
Patrick threw it 46 times, only 14 rushes. How much of that maybe had to do with protection, or was it just a product of how the game was going that you went away from the run?
The run, you're saying? Yeah, well, weren't doing too good with it. And so I felt the way they were playing, they were bringing an extra guy. I felt like we were better off with a short passing game, which was working. We were going up and down the field. We just weren't doing very good in the red zone. So, but we were struggling with the runs early, and so that was a decision I made with it.
So more so on the run-pass distribution in this game. I know a lot of people out there, including some of our callers, wanted them to run the ball more. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco was likely on a pitch count in his first game back. Kareem Hunt was not effective really at all. That was the first game that we haven't seen Hunt make that big of an impact. Maybe it's because Isaiah Pacheco's back and you're dealing with two running backs now. They weren't running the ball that great. I can definitely get behind that. Isaiah Pacheco did have that big run that made the stats look a little bit better than what they really were doing. But when you see this offense clicking, it's that the running game is going. And getting Isaiah Pacheco healthy, making sure Kareem Hunt is healthy, might be this offense's best chance to play their best football come January. Last two here, Andy Reid talked a little bit more on that decision to punt at the end of the game. Here's Reid on that.
Yeah, listen, I mean, that's one of those catch-22s either way. I would tell you that our punter was on fire today, doing a great job, and he backed him up, and I trusted what we would do defensively there. So.
How did Dick Frazier have something for you there at all?
Well, we talk. I mean, yeah, we talk. Yeah.
I do have to give some praise to Matt Ariza. You know, he's known for having a cannon for a leg. But today, it was more of the finesse, you know, making sure that he pinned the Raiders inside the 10. The defense didn't really do much with it, but there were multiple times that he was in charge of making sure it was not a touchback, not having too powerful of a kick, and that was maybe why in the end game scenario, Andy Reid decided Matt Ariza can pin them inside the 10, and we can win it with the defense. Lastly, Andy Reid talked on the return of Isaiah Pacheco and what he meant to the running back room.
How did you sense Pacheco when he came out from the return?
Say that again, Pacheco? Yeah, that was great. I thought that was a positive. It was good to get Pacheco some reps in there. I thought he did a nice job when we had an opportunity to run.
Okay, thanks.
All right, good.
All right, that was Andy Reid after the Chiefs' 19-17 win over the Las Vegas Raiders. You were listening to the Red and Gold Postgame Show, which is brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. When we come back, we're going to hear from the quarterback and Patrick Mahomes, his thoughts after a thrilling win against the Raiders. That's next on Sports Radio 810 WHB. To Samaje P. Ryan is our Andy Reid call of the game, which is brought to you by Shamrock Roofing and Construction. You can make the right call as well by visiting shamrockroofer.com. Shamrock Roofing and Construction, one call does it all. It's now time to hear from the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Pretty short and sweet from Mahomes today, who I'm sure didn't have a lot to say. And another wild finish at Arrowhead Stadium. The Raiders nearly pulled it off for the second consecutive year, spoiling a holiday for the Chiefs. This one being Thanksgiving week, the day after Thanksgiving. Last year it was on Christmas Day, but it's the Chiefs winning 19-17. They move to 11-1, hold that top spot in the AFC, but maybe not all smiles in the Chiefs locker room because they know they can be better than this. Might just be tired. But now they'll get a couple extra days of rest because the next time they play will be Sunday Night Football at Arrowhead against the Chargers next Sunday. But here was Patrick Mahomes on having to be better late in executing.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but obviously a big stop and a big moment. That got us the win there. Yeah, I mean we gotta execute better in the fourth quarter, so it doesn't come down to that.
Patrick, what is sort of the biggest takeaway you have from a game like that?
Just too many mistakes at the end of the day. I felt like there was times offensively we moved the ball, didn't execute in the red zone, didn't execute enough on third down, but too many mistakes. We got to clean that up if we want to get to where we want to go.
Now, we also heard from Andy Reid in the previous segment about why he decided to punt it, how strongly he considered going for it on fourth down. Well, here was Patrick Mahomes' thoughts on if he thought he was going back out there on the field.
Yeah, I mean, you're right on the edge of going for it. So we were talking about possibly going for it. We trusted in our defense, and it worked out for us.
Yeah, it did work out for the Chiefs in the end, though. It was more so on the Raiders screwing it up and the Chiefs really taking that game and going out there and winning it. But whether you win it or the team fumbles it right with the game on the line, it counts the same. The Chiefs would be 11-1 if they got a stop on fourth down, as they would be 11-1 right now with Aiden O'Connell fumbling the snap, though it was because the center snapped the ball when nobody was ready on the Raiders' offensive line, or really anybody that was out there for the Raiders offensively. Now, the good part about today is that the Chiefs have clinched a playoff spot really early on in the regular season, only 12 games in, still a few more to go to determine the number one spot in the AFC. But here is Patrick Mahomes on clinching a playoff berth.
I'm not necessarily. I mean, I think when you clinch a playoff spot, that's your first goal, is to get into the playoffs and give yourself a chance to go for that Super Bowl. But we know we have a long ways to go. We got to continue to work to get better, to continue to be a better football team going into the playoffs.
Getting the sense that it's a little bit bittersweet, just in your eyes, do you feel like that is sort of representation of what the team is feeling right now?
We just hold ourselves to such a high standard that we don't feel like we're playing our best football altogether. And it seems like every game, it's offense does good, defense does good, kind of vice versa. We got to find a way to build up so we can play great as a full entire team. It's awesome that we're finding ways to get wins. At the end of the day, that's what you're going for. But our goal is to get to that Super Bowl. So we're going to try to continue to get better and better so that we're playing our best football hopefully by the end of the year.
Yeah, I think it's fine to be working through some things in the regular season. I think the Chiefs know that better than anybody, considering what last year was like. But I think Patrick Mahomes said it best right there. Our goal is to win the Super Bowl. We want to make sure we're the best version of ourselves come playoff time. Now, they're in the postseason. The goal is about setting themselves up for a postseason run, getting that top spot in the AFC. Now, this I'm fascinated to hear. Patrick Mahomes would never throw his teammates under the bus. He never will call somebody out for having poor play or call somebody out for dropping passes. But here was Patrick Mahomes on the trust that he has in the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, whoever's out there, I trust those guys to go out there and make it happen. I've seen those guys play, and they've played at high levels. And so the coaches made a move, and so the guys went in there and did a good job. I got to trust it. I think there was times I didn't trust it there on that last drive, and if I can trust it, maybe make some of those throws that we're not in the situation that we were in at the end of the game.
And there you go. I think that's very telling right there. I think on that last drive, I just wasn't as trusting. You want to have full trust in your left tackle and your right tackle. He's played with Jawan Taylor now back-to-back years, so there's some more comfort there, even if he's not playing well. And it's also in front of him. The blind side is where you've got that lack of trust, I think, right now. Whether it be Tooney next week, Wanye Morris, or DJ Humphries, Patrick Mahomes seems confident. Whoever's going to be out there, I trust them to make the plays. Next thing Mahomes talked on was those missed opportunities. Certainly had one on that final offensive possession.
It's just missed opportunities at the end of the day. I mean, there's going to be a lot of good. I mean, usually it's better than you think, or it's worse than you think. But there's going to be a lot of good on tape. But we have to just find ways to execute. I mean, there was one I hit Juju kind of on the cover zero blitz. I mean, I hit Trav, and Juju was wide open probably for a touchdown. And there's the one at the end of the game with Xavier. If I can just give him a chance to make the catch there, we can ice it there. He goes down at the 2-yard line. We ice it. And so it's just missed opportunities, and we got to execute on those opportunities if we want to get to where we want to go.
He touched on it there. That missed Xavier Worthy. That really loomed large on the final couple moments of the game, because if the Chiefs just pick up the 2 yards, the game's over. However, if you have your fastest receiver streaking open, you feel like you can hit him, you might as well take that chance. I'm never going to second-guess the plays that Patrick Mahomes makes. If he feels like he can make that throw, I'm going to trust him to do it. And even though they didn't link up, I would trust him to do it again if that opportunity presents itself. But here was Patrick Mahomes on that third down miss to Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, I mean, it was that was the only reason. We knew they gave me the choice to go out there. We called the play with some options, and we got the exact coverage that we wanted. We had a 9-man type protection that we were going to let Xavier just win one-on-one. He got cover zero type coverage, and he won. I was going to find a way to make the throw.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this duo not really be on the same page every single week. You see the flashes, you see the bursts that Xavier Worthy can give the receiving corps, but once they start getting on the same page, they've got that chemistry. It's likely going to come, probably in the postseason. Maybe it's early on next year. I mean, Rashee Rice, it wasn't seamless for him. Throughout the entire regular season, there were moments, but he really hit his stride in the postseason, and I'd imagine that's when they can finally get on the same page just after a few more games in the regular season. But it feels like they are so close because with that game-breaking speed and the talent Patrick Mahomes has, it can make for a lot of deep ball plays down the field. Now, when you win ugly like this, there's not always a lot to take away positively, but a win is a win. Is that what Patrick Mahomes thinks as well?
Yeah, I think, when you look back, it keeps you hungry. You're not satisfied with where we're at, even though we're winning football games. And so we know we have to get better. I think everybody in that locker room knows we have to get better. But we want to go out there and do that and prove that. So our goal is over these last few games is to prove a team that we believe we really are going into the playoffs and then play like that throughout the playoffs.
I do feel like when this team clicks, when they get healthier, when they've got their receiving core intact, maybe DJ Humphries comes in and plays a great left tackle, that's when you're going to see those strides being made. And the satisfaction that will come from that will give you the confidence in this team being able to make another deep run in the postseason. But right now, just too many weaknesses in key spots for this team offensively and on the defensive side of the ball in the secondary. But when you're 11-1, take an extra few days of rest, and maybe they come out next Sunday night against the Chargers with a far more polished game and what is sure to be a rocking environment at Arrowhead Stadium against a good Chargers team. Been a few years since we've been able to say that. Herbert versus Mahomes should be awesome. And lastly, man, since DeAndre Hopkins has been a Chief, we have seen a much better version of Patrick Mahomes. There were the struggles early on in taking care of the football, but ever since D-Hop has been there, you've seen more efficient plays and throws from Patrick Mahomes. Here is Patrick on that connection with DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, no, we knew they were going to try to make a play because just in that situation of the game, they were going to try to make a play and jump a route, and so talked to him about it in the huddle, kind of got to a little check, and then he made a play down the field. What was the second one again? Yeah, the back shoulder. They were kind of playing that kind of double trav type of coverage. When they do that, you have one-on-ones, especially into the boundary. And so he actually went over the top. I kind of predetermined the back shoulder, but he came back and made a great play. And so if they're going to give him one-on-one matchups, man, he can win. And so I'm going to keep giving him chances.
Okay, thanks, Patrick.
And that was Patrick Mahomes after the game today. If DeAndre Hopkins didn't have that one drop where Mahomes sort of evaded the pressure from Max Crosby, he's going over 100 today. He has just been so great week in, week out, regardless of who is matched up against him. You are tuned in right now to the Red and Gold Postgame Show, which is brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box is the premium boxed wine that wins with wine critics. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. When we return, we're going to talk with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He's coming up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. And that George Karlaftis sack was our Who Made the Right Choice, brought to you by Choice Solutions, your trusted locally owned IT partner since 1985, providing IT expertise, services, and solutions to help your business grow. You can also make the right choice today by going to choicesolutions.com. We're going to hop back on the phone lines and hear from our guy Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He's brought to you by Cap One Lending. The Freedom Loan at Cap One Lending is the exclusive loan that helps you pay your home off in less than half the time and gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Go to CapOneLending.com. Well, Matt, I thought a few weeks ago when the Chiefs blocked a 30-some yard field goal against the Broncos, they couldn't have a wackier finish at any point the rest of the year. And then today, we get an illegal shift that led to a botched snap, a fumble by Aiden O'Connell, who threw for 340 yards, was getting the Raiders in field goal range to knock off Kansas City on Black Friday. Yet, of course, this Devil Magic Chiefs team finds another way to win. What was going through your mind on that odd play that the Raiders had to close out the game?
Yeah, when I saw the play unfold, I mean, I instantly thought that they were going to call it as a false start. And in that case, it was going to blow the play dead. I mean, it was only going to be a 5-yard penalty, but the Raiders would still have the football. They'd be in still field goal range at that point, but would have a shot at it as long as they didn't do anything even more stupid than trying to run that play that they did. But no, the Raiders just couldn't get out of their own way. And then, as Chris Jones, explained in the press conference afterwards, one of the officials told him, hey, you guys are going to end up with the football. And that was when Chris Jones started. He was like, okay, I'm tired. I'm ready to get off the field. Let's go. But I saw him. He was the first one to wave a first down sign and show that the Chiefs had possession. So, yeah, I mean, I guess the one thing you can say, Jack, is that this game did not come down to the last play of the game. So this was almost a cakewalk win for the Chiefs, right?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think everybody's feeling somewhat satisfied just to be 11-1, hold on the number 1 seed, and not lose for the Raiders at home for the second straight season. But, Matt, there just seems to be the same issues popping up with this team. And nobody's perfect in this league. I don't believe there is a perfect unit out there. But once again, Matt, we're talking about left tackle play. We're talking about the second cornerback spot. We are talking at times about the special teams. But let's start things off here with the left tackle play. Wanya Morris gets benched. They have to move Tooney to left tackle and Mike Caliendo into left guard because Wanya Morris simply couldn't hold down his spot against Max Crosby. So now what's the move? You've had to bench 2 separate left tackles in a game this season because they were becoming a liability and directly impacting the flow of the offense. So who's going to start? I know it's way too early to decide this. They've got a couple extra days of rest before taking on the Chargers on Sunday Night Football, but you have DJ Humphries now who's going to have another week of practice. Wanya Morris has started the most games at left tackle. You have Kingsley who was benched and then was a healthy scratch. Is it Tooney who now has to move to left tackle? If it were you, Matt, what's the decision you make?
Yeah, it's not an easy decision that Andy Reid and Andy Heck have to make for next week because you got Sunday Night Football against the Chargers. It's not a cakewalk game. It's not, the Raiders or the Browns or an opponent that you'd feel comfortable just, maybe experimenting with a bit or throwing somebody out there for the first game. I mean, I don't see how, based on what happened today, that you can go back to Wanya Morris right now. I mean, Andy Reid talked about the fact that he was just struggling, in this game mentally. The mistakes, the penalties, on top of the sacks, all of them were happening. I mean, it looked a lot like the same situation that Kingsley was going through. So, you really don't have that option to go back to him. So your option is, do you go with a guy who still has not yet put on pads for the Chiefs? I mean, Chiefs did not have any padded practices this week. They only had 2 practices as it was. So DJ Humphries, I mean, can you do that to the guy, and especially against a team like the Chargers? I mean, it seems like the simplest and easiest possibility for next week would be Joe Tooney. But, I think it's a legitimate question. Is the situation so urgent and such an emergency that you have to go ahead and say, hey, DJ Humphries, doesn't matter. We're going to throw you out there anyway.
Yeah, because next week you're dealing with Bosa and Khalil Mack up front on the defensive line. So if you think that it was just a one-off with Wanya Morris, he won't get beat that badly again or won't face a pass rush like that, you would be mistaken with that. So the Chiefs now seem to be in a very difficult spot with their left tackle position. I guess leading into the next question here, Matt, is this what is ultimately going to derail this offense, or is it going to be the lack of health with the receiving core, though it is getting a little bit healthier? Because the left tackle play, protecting the blind spot of Patrick Mahomes, it's just problematic that now twice this season they've had to bench a different tackle because they were getting abused on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, the Chiefs have two positions that are really problematic right now. And you've nailed them. I mean, the left tackle and the second cornerback spot. And, it's probably just the case that, that the Chiefs have had some positions that they weren't necessarily 100% comfortable with in the past in some of their Super Bowl runs, but maybe it just wasn't as glaring as these two are right now. But, one thing that's been pretty common through the Chiefs in this dynasty era is that we have seen them play through some really sloppy periods where they do exactly what they did today, which was just mistake after mistake. It was too many penalties. They didn't make the turnovers, but, penalties, just mental miscues, mistakes, busted coverage, you name it. I mean, what got them today, got them into this dogfight really with the Raiders, to me, was just the plethora of mistakes that they made. If they don't make those errors, they probably win this game fairly easily. I mean, at least by double digits and probably just walk away comfortably. But when you just continually, as Andy Reid will say, shoot yourself in the foot like that, you're going to get yourselves into dogfights. And so, I don't think that either one of these positions are insurmountable. I think that the Chiefs can win despite this, and maybe they're going to find a solution. Maybe it's Joe Tooney, maybe it's DJ Humphries, and you're feeling, that at least finally the left tackle position will be serviceable. Maybe they'll get there, but this team isn't going to win if it makes the mistakes that it's made, and that's probably the one thing that has just been, at least outside of those two positions, the most common theme to this team is that they have made more mistakes than they normally do, and is that tiredness? Is that fatigue from a long season and maybe having to win so many close games? It could very well be, and that's a challenge because things aren't going to get any easier next month when you got 3 games in 10 days.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to, this team being able to overcome a lot of those struggles. They've been able to do it now for a handful of years. But what has surprised me now in the last 5 or 6 weeks, Matt, is this defense inability to get off the field late. We saw against Tampa Bay. The Bucs needed a touchdown, and they decided not to go for 2. They kicked the extra point, but it was a must-have drive. They had to get a touchdown there, or the game was going to be over. The defense couldn't get off the field. We saw it once again with Denver, though the special teams bailed them out with the block kick. The Panthers needed to have a touchdown in the 2-point conversion. They got both late in the game. And then today, once again, you pin Aiden O'Connell, who hadn't played in a long, long time, inside the 10-yard line, and he just marches down the field once again, targeting Brock Bowers, targeting some of the weaker guys in coverage, and once again, it takes a fluky, weird play for this defense to get bailed out. So what has happened now in the last 5 to 6 games where this defense just can't get off the field late?
And that is the question. Is it because, the problem with, the second corner spot, hey, that wasn't as big of a deal when you had Jalen Watson. He was playing pretty well. But you also had some good games after Jalen Watson struggled, left the lineup. So you can't feel like I think you can necessarily put it all on that. But when you look at the numbers, I'll be interested to see how the snap counts come out with Charles Omenihu coming back. But, when you've got Chris Jones going 8 weeks without a sack, and Chris was talking about it tonight during his press conference. Fatigue is definitely a factor for this team. Having the Week 4 bye wasn't something that's been easy for them. They've had all these close games. It adds up. But on top of that, they've been leaning on so many of their big stars. Chris Jones shouldn't be and can't be playing 80% of the defensive snaps. George Karlaftis, you've got to give these guys more of a break. And I'm not even sure that they got that today with Charles Omenihu coming back. I think you're going to see that their snap counts were still pretty high. But even I think you're seeing the fatigue in other areas today. Brian Cook looked tired. I think Justin Reed looked tired. Nick Bolton is probably looking tired, although I think, outside the the injury that he suffered today and came back in afterwards. I mean, I think he had still some pretty good moments, but that entire defense the last month, to me, has really looked fatigued.
Yeah, and Chris Jones brought it up in the postgame today about the amount of games they played in such a short time. Now they do get a few extra days of rest before a huge game that could probably bury the Chargers if the Chiefs find a way to win this game at home, and they would have a sweep of the Chargers. Is fatigue maybe just what's showing right now? Because it was a bad Panthers team, it was a bad Raiders team. Maybe that fatigue bled into the Buccaneers game and bled into the Denver game because it is the middle portion of the season. But it's also, what everybody else is dealing with. I'm sure that the Raiders are fatigued with how many games they've lost, how many injuries they've gone through. So is it a good excuse to use of, hey, they're not playing great football right now, the defense is struggling, the offense have had its issues because they're tired? Or is it something you go, hey, everybody's tired at this point of the season, you just need to find a way to deal with that adversity?
I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, every team is tired, except that they can be tired in different ways, and that's where I think that the Chiefs have kind of put themselves into an unfortunate spot because I really don't know why that they've been running up some of the snap counts that they have when, they could maybe be giving Justin Reid and Shamari Connors and Brian Cooks a break by playing more Jaden Hicks. They could be going deeper at linebacker, so maybe that they don't have to play Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquill as many snaps. Obviously, Drew Tranquill, filling in for Nick Bolton at middle linebacker, that works. If you can find a way to maybe give both those guys fewer snaps and lean on Leo Chenal too, I mean, it seems like there's opportunities. And even up front, I mean, I think you've seen the fatigue of the pass rush with, Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, Mike Dana playing so many snaps. I mean, it reduces their effectiveness. And the Chiefs just haven't had a willingness this year to really, I think, play their full bench. And that might catch up with them at some point. I mean, if you get the 1 seed and you get that bye week, a lot of these problems going into the postseason can be erased. And we know this team that, hey, are they maybe just playing below their level? I mean, is this a team that's just sleepwalking through the season once again and is going to turn it on in January? But this year, are they just so good that that's how they're able to roll to 11-1? That while sleepwalking, there's still nobody in the league that can catch them? I don't know. I mean, maybe that's the case, and we're going to find out that come January, this team's just going to start rolling people. I don't know, but I mean, I get Chiefs fans looking at this and saying, "Hey, this is a team that may be 11-1, but it doesn't feel like a world championship team." I get that, but then I also remember this team has Patrick Mahomes, so it automatically is a world championship caliber team.
And last question for you here, Matt. Really appreciate your time. I'm starting to think about, the reinforcements that could be coming for this offense. They get Pacheco back today, so you can talk about reinforcements just being a healthier Isaiah Pacheco that's not on a snap count. But then you have Hollywood Brown getting mixed into this conversation, and maybe once Xavier Worthy can finally get on the same page with Patrick Mahomes because he feels so close with how open he's getting. He's using the game-breaking speed. And then you factor in another receiver like a Hollywood Brown to go along with DeAndre Hopkins and Travis Kelce with the tight end position. So what can the expectation level be once Hollywood Brown comes back? Because we got to keep in mind, he hasn't played all year. It's not like even Pacheco, who had preseason training camp, and he was able to play at least one full game in the regular season. This is a guy that's going to be missing the majority of the season, basically the entire season, and then coming back when it matters most. So right now, I know we're still weeks away, but what should the expectation be from fans once Hollywood Brown gets into this offense?
I mean, I do think that's what you got to be optimistic about, that there is still so much that this offense can tap into because it's even though, it's going to be basically 4 months that Hollywood Brown's going to miss before he probably gets back onto the field and in his offense. At the same time, he was here throughout the entire offseason and worked a lot with Mahomes, and that's what you're going to bank on. I mean, by the time that Hollywood gets here, he will have had more practice reps and snaps with Mahomes than DeAndre Hopkins will. That's just the benefit of having the OTAs and the training camp and those reps and snaps that you can go back to. But I mean, surely you're just going to have your limited opportunities with Hollywood that you can work him in. But then you see times like today where I mean, a 10-yard out to Xavier Worthy, I would throw those all day long. I mean, I think the Chiefs could until somebody stops them, because right now nobody seems to be stopping them. If they need 10 yards, I mean, they're just basically running at Xavier Worthy, it seems like, almost any time they want to. You throw that in there, and then, you throw in DeAndre Hopkins being able to catch back shoulder balls like the one that he did today. And, I mean, he almost hauled in that one on the pass interference, too. DeAndre Hopkins can make plays that no other receiver Mahomes has played with can make. I mean, that's an advantage that you're going to have. Then we're not even including yet Travis Kelce and Noah Gray playing the best football of his career. I mean, if the Chiefs can stay healthy and get Hollywood back, this offense, and especially with Pacheco and Hunt, I mean, could be very well be the most, and will be, frankly, I think, Jack, the most talented group of skill position players that Mahomes will have ever taken into a postseason. I mean, that's pretty crazy to think about. Now, you got to cross your fingers. Everybody stays healthy, and Hollywood gets back and everything. And that's been more difficult than you think this year. But if they can pull that off, I mean, you're looking at this being an offense that I don't know how anybody is going to stop it in the postseason.
All right, great stuff as always, Matt, especially that final answer there with this offense maybe clicking at the best possible time in 2024/2025. We'll talk to you coming up next Sunday Night Football against the Chargers. Take care, Matt.
I can't wait, Jack, although I know it's going to probably be after midnight. So.
It sure will.
I'll stay up late with you, my friend.
There he goes. That's our guy, Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He's exactly right. Next time we have the Red and Gold postgame show, it is going to be a late night show. Probably won't get done till the wee hours of the morning. But as for us, just a few more segments to go. When we come back, we're going to hear from Charles Omenihu. You got to hear from Pacheco in his first game back earlier on in the show. Now we're going to hear from a defensive lineman, Charles Omenihu, coming back in a Chiefs uniform for the first time since the AFC Championship game against Baltimore. That's next on the Red and Gold postgame show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. By Greenlight Dispensary, the unofficial sponsor of Kansas City's favorite football team. Look for the Greenlight Stadium flyover banners at your favorite games this fall. GreenlightDispensary.com. And you are tuned in to the Red and Gold Postgame Show, which is brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box is the premium boxed wine that wins with wine critics. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. We're now going to hear from another guy that made his return to Arrowhead Stadium, put the Chiefs uniform back on, though Pacheco got to wear it in Week 1 and Week 2. Charles Omenihu has not played since the AFC Championship game against the Baltimore Ravens. He was back on the field today, so without further ado, here is Charles Omenihu.
How did you feel physically out there?
I feel good. People think, when you have this kind of injury that it'll be lumps, and during the process it was, but going out there, I credit Greg and Tiffany Morton and Greg Cabin for getting me right. My knee felt good. I had no problems, I think just going out there and getting my feet wet, going out there and doing what I know I can do. I think that's the only thing. That's my frustration with myself. But, I got to give myself grace, and I credit the whole organization here, bro. It's a Class A organization, you know what I'm saying? Like, allowing me to take the time to come back, do it the right way, and them give me the grace that I'm not giving myself. So I can only just appreciate them and just trying to keep stacking and hopefully get back to how I was playing last year.
Can you take us through that fourth down stop that you were in on?
Yeah, Coach Joe was kind of nervous. He thought I forgot the plays or something, because I know my role this week was going to be just trying to rush, but got out there and I ran the play and made a play, and I'm happy. It's a good stop.
Charles, you watched a lot of these close finishes from the sideline.
Yeah.
What was it like to be out there for one of them?
It's a competitive league. It's a game that, you got all 4 quarters you got to go, and you got to finish. So no matter how it turn out, a win is a win. So I know people want wins to be like, shit, you ain't going to blow everybody out, bro. You just got to be honest with yourself. Like, you got to win how you want to. It'd be better if we won or coming in here and lost. Still would have the same questions. So I'm glad we won. Obviously room for improvement on both sides of the ball.
Could you tell there was a difference of what your presence did for the rest of the guys on the defensive line today?
You'd have to ask them, but I think sacks come with chaos. When the quarterback is having somebody flash across his face, do this and that and the third. So I think I had good rushes. I want to finish. I'm just extremely hard on myself. I didn't rehab for 9 months to just go out there and play punch grass with my cleats. Like, I want to make plays. That's just what I want to do.
Charles, you documented your whole experience just recovering from ACL, from social media and everything else. Just what did it mean for you today to get out there knowing that it finally came to fruition, that you finally didn't make that return?
Yeah, bro, it's crazy. Anybody that's ever had this kind of injury, bro, I salute them, to be honest, because this is something that is difficult, and I want to just thank God that he got me through this. I documented everything so I could look back, because I know I'm hard on myself. So I document everything and look back and be like, there was a time I could not walk. I could do nothing for myself. My mom, Regina Omenihu, was the person that took care of me the whole time, and I'm forever grateful to have a mother like that. So it's just an opportunity to just give myself grace. But like I said, bro, I'm a competitor. When I left the field last year, I was on the highest of highs. I want to get back to that by all means.
How hard was it to have to watch the Super Bowl last year after everything you put into through the AFC Championship?
Extremely hard. That's the biggest game in the league, and I feel like I thrive off of big games, and not being able to play in that game was tough. But 9 months later, I'm back, and hopefully, we keep turning this thing and keep pushing, and we make a good run.
How much does that motivate you? You got a ring, but you still get to play in that game. How much does that motivate you?
My motivation is coming from people that think that I'm not going to be the same player. That's my motivation. Underestimating my work, underestimating just how much I put into this. So that's my motivation. You never want to just throw out there like them type of goals, because if we don't make it, then I got a storyline. But my motivation is a very personal thing, very, very personal and deep down inside that when I accomplish it, everybody will know.
Charles, you played a lot of outside and inside today, which might be surprising to some people. But what's it like now being fully into year 2 in the system and kind of knowing everything?
Yeah, you just play fast, really. I mean, that's what you got to do. I'm a versatile player, so I have to know everything and be able to play at a high level. So they're entrusting me to do that and to make plays.
Were you on the snap count at all, or did you just feel like...
I was on the snap count, but, I mean, the nature of the game, we had to get a rush. So, I appreciate Joe for letting me go out there and do it. And I just, like I said, I'm hard and critical of myself, so I'm going to look at this tape probably tomorrow because all my family here, they ain't going to let me just be down in the dumps. But I'm going to look at this and be critical of myself and find a way on Sunday Night Football to make plays.
What did it feel putting the uniform back on today?
Ecstatic. I was happy. Like I said, I thank God for putting me in the situation that gave me passes, because now I know that I can get through anything. So, like I said on my socials, for anybody that's had a hard trial or a tribulation, bro, just put your trust in God. He'll get you through.
When you lose football for a while, how meaningful is it for you to get back on the field and go through this like you did today?
Yeah, if I took care of my body before, I'm times 10 now, because I never ever want to be injured again. It's tough.
Thanks, Charles.
That was Charles Omenihu after the game today, his first one since the AFC Championship game against the Baltimore Ravens last season. Also heard some questions there from our very own Steven St. John. We'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, we will wrap up the Red and Gold postgame show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. magic of Mahomes, which is brought to you by Westlake Ace Hardware. Westlake Commercial, a division of Westlake Ace Hardware, is your local business-to-business supply partner. Our commercial team, dedicated business-to-business website, credit terms, and convenience store locations make it easy. Visit your local Westlake Ace Hardware store or www.westlakehardware.com/commercial today. Well, it wasn't pretty against the Las Vegas Raiders. We all know that by now. You heard a lot of players talking about the game. You heard some frustrations. You heard some positivity. But the Chiefs are 11-1. Their point differential is only in the 50s, but they still hold the number one spot in the AFC. They have clinched a playoff spot, and up next, it's going to be a battle with the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday Night Football. So Chiefs in L.A. next Sunday, 7:20 kick. We'll have it covered on the Red and Gold postgame show right after the game. But until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.